1. At the beginning of the COVID lockdown, the company that I work for put out notice to all clients that we would not be doing occupied repairs unless it was an emergency. Less than a week into the lockdown, one of our clients decides that our notice does not apply to them. Calls us to do an occupied repair for a hole in the wall, with a side note to retrieve the baseball inside. The following morning, I checked in the leasing office and tried to gather a little info as to where the hole was and any info as to what I'm about to walk into. I was told that they wanted the ball back because it was autographed and very valuable. The kid was playing with it in the apartment. I was also informed to try and keep it to a minimum because the resident was paying for the repair. Wish they had told me how much of a bitch the resident was going to be. I go to the apartment, introduce myself to the resident, and was greeted with, "What, they couldn't find a Mexican to fix my wall?" I tried to assure her that I could fix the wall, but she just slammed the door in my face. I returned to the leasing office and explained to the assistant maintenance supervisor what just happened, and they just said, "Here we go again. Let's go, I'll talk to her." We both go back, and the AMS tells her that I'm more than capable of fixing a wall, and he personally requested me to do the job. She lets us in with a look of disapproval. I start the job by spreading out a drop in plastic, cutting out the already baseball-sized hole bigger so that I can see and feel around for the ball. When I determine that the wall is a staggered wall and I won't be able to find it. For those who don't know, a staggered wall is 2 units built with an inch of space between them, used for muffling noises and oftentimes used to hide plumbing. I told AMS that if she really wants that ball, I'm going to need to open the wall even more. He goes to talk to the resident, and all I hear is her yelling, "I don't give a damn if he's got to open the entire wall. I want that effing ball." AMS comes back and motioned to me to take a step outside while he made a phone call. A minute later, my boss calls me, telling me, "When I get the okay, do whatever you need to find the ball and keep track of any time." At that point, I realized I'm going to open the wall up just to find a ball. The property manager shows up with the paper in hand and has the resident sign it, and turns to me and said, "Go for it." I began taking out the lower half, pulling the insulation, looking high and low. About an hour and a half later, we found it in the insulation, wedged between the plumbing and the stud of the neighboring wall. The AMS lets the resident know we found it. She collects the baseball and freaks out. The AMS reminds her that she didn't give a damn if I had to open the entire wall. Needless to say, I closed up the wall, not leaving any sign of it ever being opened. The paper the property manager had her sign was to ensure the resident would cover all costs. So, what should have been $200 in the job turned into $1,000+. And the autographed baseball turned out to be worthless. The autograph was from college players who didn't go pro. Hopefully she learned something from this. 2. Many years ago, and for many years, I was a bank manager. So apologies in advance for any banking lingo I use, but it's all relevant. This was around the time that Visa MasterCard debit cards, which only used your own money and savings, became a regular thing. But some older customers couldn't wrap their head around it. We had a regular customer who was always rude and complained about anything he could, whether it be the way someone didn't hold the door for him, or the bank stealing his money again, an actual common complaint as people perceived bank fees and transaction fees as us stealing. For the purpose of this story, we'll call him Cranky. I can honestly say he was the worst person to come into any of my branches ever. One day, Cranky comes into the branch and starts verbally abusing my counter staff. This is the 3rd time he's come in, believing that someone is stealing money from his account linked to his debit card. I check the transaction history and agree that the reference numbers are a bit odd, usually just 8 to 12 digits long without much of a description. These amounts are ranging from $20 to $100 and occur pretty regularly. Definitely enough to warrant an investigation. The issue is that we have replaced this same card 2 times now. The cards have different numbers on each of them, so it couldn't be a case of someone stealing his card details, as we close and block the previous cards each time we order a new one. The cards also cost $10 for a replacement, so Cranky is of course yelling about all the money we're stealing off him. We are charging more fees for the new card. Definitely my fault. No problem, Cranky. But this time I'm going to get our investigations team to look into the matter because, well, I also want to know now. Cranky doesn't care about the investigation, just wants his new card. Again, no problem. Keep in mind that each time this customer came in, he was obnoxious, rude, and also impossible to deal with. So much so that he would regularly cause different team members to cry. Being a small bank, upper management obviously needed to try to keep every customer that they could, and this guy happened to hold a bit of money with us. So, a bank being a bank, they refused to close his account and move him on. About a week later, I get the results back from our investigations team. They make me ecstatic. Numerous times I read over the report, and it quickly became my favorite reading material. I'll come back to this soon. Again, cut to a short time later, and we can see Cranky with his wife storming towards the branch. Even 60 meters away, you could see he was angry and ready to blast anyone in his way. Well, hello, guys, I'm anyone. He walks straight into my office. He and his wife sit in my chairs, and he actually throws his home-printed transaction history into my face, while unleashing his full force of hate against me. I was called every name under the sun to the point where he was bright red, choking on his words, as the abuse couldn't come out quick enough. The funny thing is, I expected this, I knew it was coming. I had aligned my chakras for this moment, I think. I have never been more prepared for this moment in my life. I feel the single bead of sweat run from my forehead. I'm ready.
You need to explain to me right now what in the fuck all this is, or I'm going to the police.
Yes, of course. I actually had our investigations team look into the issue with these transactions, but I honestly believe it might be better if we speak in private, just you and I.
Absolutely not. You just want to lie. All this bank does is lie and steal my money.
Please, Cranky. I really want to talk to you in private about this. If not now, did you want to come at a later time? Meaning without your wife.
You better start explaining right now or I'm calling your head office.
Cool, let's get going. I pull out my beautiful manila folder. At this point, I'm shaking from excitement. Here is the list of sources of the transactions. Should I begin?
You should have looked into this when it first started, you coward.
I then proceed to list off a series of websites, in a manner akin to Randall from the Clerks movie listing out video titles of an adult nature, and I watch his face drop with fear, and it was probably my biggest achievement in life.
Oh yeah, that's all good, don't...
What? His wife says.
Nothing. I know what it is. That's okay, no need to
I, of course, continue. Oh my God! At this stage, he rips the paper out of my hand. I can see his wife watching her husband's innocence fade before her eyes. She is shocked and already asking more questions. But he's had enough of me for today.
All sorted, love. Let's get out of here. My mistake.
I have never seen an old man get up and leave that quick in my life. It would have been 10 seconds max, and he was already outside, his wife yelling at him and shoving him as he walked away, defeated. My colleagues and I still reminisce about this event a lot. Even years after we've all left the company, this is that story that we talk about when we see each other. It gave us all a special closure on his behavior. He never came back to our branch again while I was there, but I hear he was very lovely to the staff at the next branch, a few suburbs over. 3. There is a type of customer who asks a million questions but never makes a purchase. If you're selling something, especially your own handmade products, you'll have to get used to it. Regardless, it's important to learn to respect them. These are the people who teach you how to engage in productive dialogue. But everything should be done in moderation. I came across one such customer who contacted me and immediately said, "I have my company's anniversary coming up and I want to order gifts for my employees from you, 30 engraved knives." For someone like me who's struggling financially, this order was a godsend. I was thrilled and immediately said I was ready to discuss everything. Promising to make the best quality and give him the biggest discount I could, he said, okay, gave me his phone number, and asked me to call when he's available. Due to the time difference, it meant getting up at 5 in the morning for me. But fine, I woke up early and called. He greeted me with, "Good morning." He was aware that it was 5 in the morning for me, and started asking me a million questions. He asked about the steel grades I work with, the existing steel grades, and even my predictions about future steel. He asked about Damascus steel, discussed Damascus, the city, the history of Syria, and the history of the art of weaponry. And it was not 5 a.m., but 9. That's when he ended the conversation. We hadn't discussed anything regarding his order. The next day, I called him again, the same thing happened, and the day after, I started losing my temper. But I really needed this order. On the 5th day, I started the conversation immediately with a request to discuss his order, because I had very little personal time. I had 2 jobs and a family. Do you know what he replied? Sorry, we discussed it with the team, and we decided to purchase gift baskets instead. Knives are not for everyone after all. Then what were we discussing for these 5 days? Why did this all happen? Well, you're passionate about knives, and I'm passionate about them too. A good conversation is a rare pleasure. Do you understand that I spent the whole week on you? I hardly slept to be awake for our conversation. Why did you do this? Hey, you're a big boy. Why are you whining? Learn how to work with clients. Maybe I'll buy something from you later. At that point, I hung up and blocked him. But this story didn't leave me. The person took advantage of my vulnerability and simply played with me. I thought for a long time about how to get back at him, until I realized why not let him taste his own medicine. I contacted my friends in the US and explained the situation to them. After a week, they started writing to his company with requests for placing large orders. Of course, they couldn't spend 5 hours on the phone, but they didn't need to. They simply started sending them technical specifications with endless revisions. The number of revisions kept growing, and the company spent more time on approvals. Budgets were inflated, and my friends agreed to any additional expenses, which would never actually happen. And somewhere within a month of this circus, they unanimously decided to stop working further, saying, "Thank you, but we're no longer interested." The funniest part was when one of them received a call from my conversation partner. He was practically yelling at him, wondering why the hell my friend wasted so much of his time. To which he received the response, "Why do you take it so personally? It's business. You couldn't convince me of the benefits of working with you. Don't call me again. Goodbye." In the end, with some ingenuity on your side, even as a small person, you can get a little bit of justice. Hellfreezer's note, the Etsy store mentioned in the story is linked in the description if you'd like to take a look. 4. This happened about 8 years ago, 1 year into my first job, or paid internship. Clerking gig? I don't know what to call it. The firm that I worked for had a part-time program for law students so they could work and gain experience while in school. Very common in my country. I loved my job. I was very grateful for the opportunity to learn and grow, and I really enjoyed the work I performed. The thing was, I had classes both in the morning and the afternoon, or night, and my school was at a different side of the city, about 8 miles away, that could turn into hours of traffic during rush hour in a city with 8 million inhabitants. So my days looked pretty hectic. As something like this. 5:30 to 7, get ready and drive to school. 7 to 9, class. 9 to 10-ish, drive to work. 10-ish to 5, work. 5 to 6, drive to school. 6 to 10, classes. Then I would try to study for an hour after class, and I would often eat while driving. During my first year in the program, I had more than proved myself and earned my place. I was that 19, 20-year-old idiot, type A overachiever that knew no boundaries. I had worked weekends, pulled all-nighters. Literally, I would leave school at 10 p.m. and go back to work. Worked full-time in the summers without more pay. Anything I had to do to keep the associates happy so they'd keep teaching me. As I was wrapping my first anniversary there, the perfect storm of awful rolled around. On the academic front, I started a new semester, and twice a week, in the mornings, I had a teacher who was awesome, but would finish class 20 or 30 minutes late. On the work front, a new partner joined the firm, Mr. A-Hole, who kind of took over as an unofficial managing partner. He was the typical old-fashioned lawyer that should be extinct by now. He could barely use Microsoft Word to type a contract, and would pass out at the sight of an Excel sheet. He had this weird obsession with punctuality while simultaneously being late to everything. Plus, he moronically believed that by having a bunch of people warming up chairs, he would magically make money. So instead of investing time on client development, he would just spend endless time and effort on bullying everyone around the office. To make matters worse, since other people spoke highly of me, he decided to pay special attention to me. Unsurprisingly, shortly after he joined, the firm started struggling. Now, he could have tried to get new clients, send quotes by the deadline, and show up to meetings on time, but no. Of course, the firm was doing poorly because us clerks did not spend enough time warming up the chairs. So he became obsessed with getting us there by 10 a.m., especially me. The issue was that I could not get there by 10 because my teacher finished class late, and there was no way I could drive across the city in rush hour in 30 minutes. So he called a meeting with all the clerks and yelled at me in front of everyone because I was always late, more like 2 times a week, but whatever. The fact that I had gotten permission from the program committee did not matter. The fact that I was working 6 or 7 hours every day, while I only had to work 5, did not matter. The fact that I would work weekends and late nights did not matter. I tried to explain, but he kept yelling and would not let me talk. Having had enough, I left the conference room straight into the office of every member of the clerk program committee. 1 junior associate, 1 senior associate, and 1 partner to say the same speech. I am late because I have class. I have proven my commitment to the firm, but my education is important too. If 30 minutes late twice a week is too big of an issue, feel free to fire me. But I am not leaving class early. Then went to my desk to do my work. I guess the committee informed other partners, and word got around what was going on, a small firm. Because as I was getting ready to leave for school, Mr. A-Hole came fuming to my desk and told me,
"I know you're lying. From now on, I want to know where you're at all times. If I catch that you were slacking off or lying, you are fired, and I will make sure no one will ever hire you."
So, cue malicious compliance. The next day I woke up extra early, 5 a.m. sharp, took a time-stamped photo and sent it to both his email and phone, since I could not risk him not getting it and not knowing where I was. I sent a time-stamped photo every 5 minutes, captioning what I was doing, like it was my own personal social media platform of 1 follower. The cherry on top was that my teacher had worked with him in the past and obviously did not like him very much, so he let me take photos during the class and diligently send them to Mr. A-Hole. I even went as far as taking a photo of the toilet door with the text peeing, and then at the toilet flushing, all done. While driving, since traffic was really slow, I would send a photo and include how much I had moved during that time. Sometimes it was something absurd like 100 feet. As soon as I sent the photo of me at my desk, he shows up saying that he got the point and I could stop. A couple of weeks later, he simply stopped bugging people and started working from home or locking himself up in his office. My guess is I was not the only one to complain, and the other partners realized how dangerous he could be for the firm and asked him to back off. 5. Like most public places, our library had a lost and found box. Located under the desk, people could ask, "Did you find?" But you know how that works. Until, as time marches on, we get a new boss. Karen seems overused, but it is apt, so Karen it shall be. She did not like our lost and found setup. Instead, things had to go on a shelf behind the desk so everyone could see everything. And maybe remember that they had lost a particular item. This policy lasted maybe a week before we noticed a big problem. As public places tend to do, we attracted our fair share of idiots and a-holes, including Jim. He came in one morning, and upon seeing this new shelf of treasures, immediately claims everything on the shelf is his. That glittery pink onesie? His. That well-used pacifier? His. That one-odd glove that had been sitting in the box for months? His. We all knew damn well that it wasn't his and said so, and every time, Karen would override us. If he says it's his, give it to him. Besides, he's clearing out this stuff, so who cares? Until the almost final straw. One of our regulars was a mom, and her kid, toddler age, could walk but had a stroller just in case. Usually well behaved. And always had Mr. Giraffe with him. One day, Mr. Giraffe somehow got left behind. We immediately called the mom. They hadn't even made it home yet, and Kiddo is having a meltdown. She says she's turning the car around and should arrive in about 20 minutes. No worries, we'll take good care of him. Showed Kiddo a picture of Mr. G checking out a book. Disaster averted. Or so we thought. Karen decrees that Mr. Giraffe be placed on the shelf with everything else. Just in time for a-hole Jim to spot it and declare it his. The entire building staff is yelling that it's not his, Mom is on her way to get it, etc. But Karen will not be moved. She hands it over anyway because he says it's his. Sure enough, Mom comes and no Mr. Giraffe. But we know where he is. Someone gets Karen out of her office and as a group head straight for Jim. Demand he return the giraffe, and of course he has no clue what we're talking about. Strange thing about kids sometimes. They see closer to the ground, and sure enough, Mr. Giraffe is poking out of Jim's backpack. Kiddo grabs it with a shout of joy, and all Karen can do is stammer, but he said it was his. While the rest of us are saying, we told you it wasn't. Now you would think we're done. But we haven't gotten to the malicious compliance yet, sorry y'all. So, get to the malicious compliance already! Shortly after the giraffe incident, Karen and Jim are still playing their games. Karen heads to a conference and leaves behind a very distinctive, very expensive-looking water cooler or tumbler. Bigger than a 1-cup morning commute mug, but not a big jug either. Which, you can see this coming, Jim immediately claims is his. I swear he was almost hopping with glee at his latest find. A week later, Karen returns only to find that Jim has her cooler. She tries to confront him. But all I have to do is say it's mine, and they have to give it to me. That's the rule. We finally got our box beneath the desk that afternoon, and Jim had to describe everything he was going to try to make a claim on. Although after the box went back under the desk, it took a while to break Jim's habit. Every day, anybody turn anything in? Answer was either no or sure. What did you lose? What does it look like? Took a while, but he finally quit asking. And yes, Jim had other issues, but they don't really seem to fit anywhere here. Like the daily blizzard of powder in the men's restroom. Damn, Jim, you need that much powder? Go see a doctor. Damn it, Jim, I'm a librarian, not a cleaner. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream, episode 273. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do poke the like button. It's been talking smack about you. Alrighty, let's see. Oh yes, if you'd like to get the videos a little bit early, you can support me through Patreon for any amount you like a month, and that's linked in the description. Other ways to support the channel financially, and therefore me, are to buy merchandise on Spreefring? You can also buy it on Teespring. Spreefring are a bit weird. It's also linked in the description, and you can make donations during videos and streams if you choose to do so. You're not obligated or required to do these things to keep enjoying the videos, but it is appreciated. Alrighty, let's see. Oh yes, bit of a whine from me. I don't have an Etsy store, but I do pimp myself out on Fiverr, selling my skills as a narrator, and I've had some genuinely lovely experiences working with people. However, the majority of people that have contacted me have been the time-wasty, ask questions, will you perform a sample for us, people you're never going to hear back from. I even had one person, they didn't tell me what they wanted from the edition. They just said the last person was too American, which I thought was, okay, fair enough. Maybe you shouldn't have hired an American if you didn't want an American accent. But they asked me, and then they didn't say specifics about what they wanted. So I did the reading, I just based on the material, which I thought would work best. And they then said, oh no, it's too dry, or it's not emotional enough. I said, well, if you told me you wanted that, I could have given you that, because, you know, acting. But they didn't. Then, of course, you get the people that they all want samples, which is fine to do a sample. I'm willing to do like a, you know, just a 10, 20-second sample, as long as it's just a sample. And I won't do, well, what's the best way to put it? Taglines, buzz lines, that sort of thing. Things that could obviously be then taken out and used to promote something. I'll do something that's sort of neutral, just so you can see how my voice works with whatever backing music you want to use in your material. That seems reasonable. Some people are ridiculous with it. I have gotten gigs after sending samples, and I've also not gotten gigs after sending samples. But generally, it's just a lot of people wasting my time. So while I have had a lot of good experiences, there are so many time wasters. They'll ask you all the questions in the world, and it's like they're just there to waste your time. Or, and this is a thing that really does grind my gears, so to speak, with Fiverr, is my prices are really cheap. It's like $5 for 500 words. Quite frankly, I should probably raise them, which might get rid of some of the time wasters, but it might also drive some people off. They want, oh, how much would you charge for 2,000 words? Well, let's see if we could do a little basic math. I admit I'm not the most qualified mathematician in the world. Don't have a degree or anything, but let's see. Let's 500 words for $5. Wow, you divide that into 500 divides into 2,000 4 times, and I guess that would be $20? Well, maybe, possibly $20. Yeah, and you know, at that point, if they're asking, they're not willing to pay the already cheap prices. So, but I keep at it because I have had some good experiences. I had a lovely experience with somebody who was an artist recently. I then got another gig recommended by them, so that worked out well. But doing my best, trying to build up a portfolio there, so I do certainly feel a great deal of sympathy with the person with the Etsy store. It's tough out there when you're trying to put money in the bank, it really is. Okay. Before we go, I think we'll have Hellfreezer's question of the day, and today's question is, do you guys have any little side projects you'd like to talk about? I yammered on about mine for several minutes there, and I'd love to hear about all the cool and interesting projects you guys get up to. Okay, with that, I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.